before he died, which was funny. What else? I mean, nothing stuck out to me other than him literally being snubbed, it being, frankly, a long farewell.
Yeah.
It was obviously well received by the enthusiastic crowd. Lots of thank you, Joe chants that he was giving out. He gave shout outs to unions and a few other things. He tried to paint a optimistic portrait of a country that he is handing off for improvement to Kamala Harris. That was my overall take. What did you think?
You know, that's an interesting point because it reminds me of when Donald Trump had to deal with Make America Great Again in 2020, right? He went with Keep America Great.
That's right.
CAG.
That's right. Yes, CAG.
That's what it ended up being.
Awful slogan.
So it's something you always have to do as an incumbent. But Kamala Harris has started this dramatic economic policy rollout that we talked about yesterday. Like, she's trying to move really far away from Biden and remove herself from the unpopularity of the Biden-Harris administration. So it's interesting that Biden, and I think you saw a little bit of cope from Hillary Clinton last night too.
Massive. We will get to that. Don't worry.
Right, of course. Well, we have to because it was really something. But so the other thing, when you're talking about the grocery list, he, of course, spent a significant amount of time on Charlottesville, as he always does when he's talking about his kind of genesis as a serious presidential contender, which he ended up being in 2020. And the other thing I wanted to mention is towards the end of the speech, he talked about how it's something that Jill Biden had said too. She said when she was kind of introducing Ashley Biden that his love for the country was so great that that's why he stepped down. Right. He addressed it so vaguely. Yeah. Right. There was no details.
He really did not go into it at all.
No, there were no specifics. Right. It wasn't like I was sitting at home, thinking about how much I love this country and decided to step down. It was really just a super vague nod to this dramatic, historic, unprecedented decision that he'd made just in the last month, and that was it.
What did you think, Ryan? So you were in. So just to explain a little bit of the logistics, Ryan was actually on the floor because he's a print journalist and they have different privileges than us radio TV folks. Tell us a little bit about Ryan. Color. You were in the stage. Hold some of the protest conversation because we will get to that in a little bit.
The crowd is super fired up.
Yeah.
Like you can feel the energy in a way that you couldn't at some previous conventions. When Kamala Harris came out, as you mentioned, I was actually in the hallway and heard this just absolute explosion coming from inside the arena, and popped my head in and said, oh, there's Kamala on the stage, and the place is just rocking. But it was also rocking for Joe Biden for 7 minutes or so. I feel like maybe 5 minutes of just sheer expressions of love and support for Joe Biden. Yes. But you get the sense that a significant amount of that is release of satisfaction, joy that he's not running.
Absolutely.
If he were giving his speech as claiming the renomination, I don't feel like that you'd get the same 5 minutes.
Did you guys notice that he was not liking the thank you, Joe chants?
Yeah.
That he really...
It's thank you for stepping down.
Because thank you for stepping down. Yeah. Exactly right. I had the exact same take, or I was like, interesting. Yeah. Every time thank you, Joe broke out, he was not having it. He was not happy.
And the we love you...
Right. We love you was very different. That was okay.
But it also comes across in a similar way. We love you for the selfless act that you performed.
Exactly.
Of not running for
which he doesn't talk about. Which is, again, I mean, this is the craziest part. I'm so glad that you brought that up because I didn't even have that in my notes. The level of detail for why he's stepping down was zero. It was, here is why I've done an incredible job. Yep. Every once in a while, I will say, thank you, Kamala, too. Thank you, Walz. And then he's like, gotta go out there and, you gotta vote for Tim Walz. And then roughly around 1 a.m. local time, he gets on a plane and now he's in Santa Clara, California. Yeah. And he's on literal vacation.
And he's out. He won't be presiding over the convention like Kamala Harris. Right. He won't be in the box looking at anyone, clapping, doing interviews, talking to delegates. He is out, and they want it that way. No question about it.
And as we have tried to highlight, one of the things, guys, that we talked a lot about yesterday is that they put the most unpopular people up on the stage tonight, or last night. They had Hillary Clinton, AOC, and Joe Biden. So we don't have any, actually, I think Crystal talks a little bit about AOC, so I'll leave it to her. I personally don't really understand why the pundits were raving about her. Ryan, if we want to give our brief take here,
raving about who?
About AOC. I was like, she gave a very standard Democratic speech and was cogent.
I think it's because the pundits are very pleased that
That she's a Democrat.
Here's the left.
D.
Here's the left wing of the party
Falling
up on stage.
Right. She's a good Dem.
And Sean Fain also ran as like an insurgent.
Right.
Up on the stage, Sean Fain didn't even mention Gaza, which is a big thing that the UAW has been pushing Biden on. AOC did become, like, I think maybe the only, or at least the first person to mention Gaza, but did it in a way that ticked people off by saying,
well, she said Kamala is working
tirelessly towards a ceasefire.
And we were all,
that was
producer
amazing.
Mac was like, what? Like, I audibly was shocked when she said that. We were all watching it.
It's a very classic way of, everybody sees what's going on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I totally.
So I think that's why the
But I think like it's good for AOC to play the game like that because that put pressure on Kamala. It's kind of like saying, this guy always give money to everybody. He's not selfish. So that makes that puts the person on the corner where you have to be like, I guess I better give some money, man, because I haven't given anything. Exactly, you know what I'm saying? It's like that I mean, it's not a bad strategy if you understand politics, you know.
pundits liked it because they're like, cool, we're all on the team now. The band is together. Now let's rock and roll and go beat Trump.
I honestly, I mean, let's give a little bit of our assessment. What do you think in the hallways? People were happy, and even the ceasefire delegates. So just a little bit of color. The ceasefire delegates are all wearing T-shirts to say "We're ceasefire delegates." People are not treating them badly or anything. Now we'll get to how they treated actual protesters, but that's a different story. Go ahead.
And just a question for Ryan: could you talk a little bit about what kind of person is a Democratic delegate here at the convention? Because it's a little bit different than Republicans. So what's the makeup of the people that are actually in the arena? What's the makeup of the people that are actually in the arena?
If you're in a major city and you're a delegate from Chicago, actually any major city, then you're more likely to be a party operative / machine type figure, probably a lawyer, somebody who's like involved in party politics in a way that influences your profession. If you're a delegate in the suburbs or in a rural area, you are a party activist. You are a diehard
county party.
You love Democratic Party politics. It makes up your entire social life. You're committed. This is your thing. And you are probably a middle class, like a normal person, except for the fact that you are like a hyper partisan person. And this is the social life that you've chosen.
Yeah, you really did feel like real fangirl energy for a lot of the Democrats. Like we watched, remember Mark Kelly in the hallway? I mean, it's like he was like Jay-Z or something. Yeah. Like, I've never seen anyone.
Mark Kelly?
I've never seen anyone greet a United States senator.
Parasocial relationship.
Yeah,
with
it was very odd.
But they have to pay their own way.
Yeah,
like
true.
These people, like, you know, they're regular people who just, this is their thing, and they just deeply care. Which is different than the plaintiff's attorney who lives in Chicago. And so I'm a Democratic Party activist because like I need the party to be favorable to me and my profession.
Any last thoughts here? Because we want to talk about Pelosi as well.
Well, I was just going to ask about the changes to superdelegates. Are there still a mix of
radically shrunk down?
Okay.
But those people are still here,
Right?
And they still get this. They still get the
we
same
saw it
badges.
And you know, we could see some of the VIP hosted, the cloakroom areas and all that. Those were down in the basement.
The rainbow of hierarchy.
They looked nice.
Different badges.
It looked nice in there. Yeah. It certainly did.
You get a golf cart.
Let's
if you're big enough
Get a golf
donor.
cart. That's right.
He'll wear a tux.
That's right. As long as you're wearing tuxes, I'm totally fine with the superdelegates, of course. Let's go ahead and get to Nancy Pelosi on CNN, also throwing some shade at Biden, because it was ironic that at the same time that she's the one probably more responsible than anybody else for getting him out of the race. His own former campaign manager, Anita Dunn, confirms this. They've been in a war of words in the most like bitchy way possible, where they're like, some people didn't want to give him the benefit of the doubt. Well, Nancy Pelosi is asked about this in a CNN interview very briefly before actually taking the floor of the convention. Matt, can we go ahead and cue that up, please? Just so the audience can take a listen. Let's go and play it.
It does seem like there's some residual bad blood or resentment, and I'm wondering if you've spoken to him and what your response is to that.
Sometimes you just have to take a punch for the children.
And that's what you're doing right now? You're just going to take the punch for the children?
Who's punching right now?
I don't know.
Anita Dunn said...
I didn't even hear this. I'm just hearing...
It was an interview with me.
Maybe he's throwing the punch. I don't know.
No,
I'm not. I would never. But
she
Anita,
said she doesn't want to fight.
Nobody wants to have a fight with Nancy Pelosi at this time.
Well, you know what?
Have you talked
I
to him?
have
Is
to
my
do
only
what
question.
I have to do.
Right.
He made the decision for the country. My concern was not about the president, it was about his campaign. As he has seen the exuberance, the excitement that has come forth in our country. I just did an event for one of our members in Illinois, Eric Sorensen, today. Immediately, he got 1,100 volunteers into his campaign as soon as that announcement was made.
Nobody is questioning the fact that the Democratic Party seems much better positioned right now than it did 4 weeks and 2 days ago. There's no question about that. Former Speaker Pelosi.
So why are we even talking about it?
Yeah, why are we even talking about how you literally forced the president out of the race? Like, are you
He's
kidding
dead.
me?
Why are we talking about him?
No, that's it.
That was, but there was something kind of deeply sick about it. Because she not only is responsible for it, but we were all joking this morning. There's a video, I think Griffin sent it to all of our chat, where she's also pictured literally holding and chanting, "Thank you, Joe," on the floor of the convention when she, I guess it is cognizant, and that's part of why Biden doesn't like the chant so much, is because it's like, yeah, thank you for listening to me and getting out of here.
Yeah.
We put you out to pasture. We basically forced you out. And there was not, that was the other thing that drove me crazy about the Jill Biden speech. There was no, high-minded stuff going on here. It was the donors pulled your money. You held on till the very last minute, and you're obviously bitter. Like,
And now you want
bitter
a pat
about
on the
getting
back.
pushed out. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
now
right.
you want a pat on the back for being such a patriot.
Right. Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. Come on. All right. Ryan. Last thoughts on Biden.
Well,
Before we
Pelosi has.
I just did an event for one of our members in Illinois, Eric Sorensen, today. Immediately, he got 1,100 volunteers into his campaign as soon as that announcement was made.
Nobody is questioning the fact that the Democratic Party seems much better positioned right now than it did 4 weeks and 2 days ago. There's no question about that. Former Speaker Pelosi.
So why are we even talking about it?
Yeah, why are we even talking about how you literally forced the president out of the race? Like, are you
He's
kidding
dead.
me?
Why are we talking about him?
No, that's it.
But that was, but there was something kind of deeply sick about it. Because she not only is responsible for it, but we were all joking this morning. There's a video, I think Griffin sent it to all of our chat, where she's also pictured literally holding and chanting, "Thank you, Joe," on the floor of the convention when she, I guess it is cognizant, and that's part of why Biden doesn't like the chant so much, is because it's like, yeah, thank you for listening to me and getting out of here.
Yeah.
We put you out to pasture. We basically forced you out. And there was not, that was the other thing that drove me crazy about the Jill Biden speech. There was no, high-minded stuff going on here. It was the donors pulled your money. You held on till the very last minute, and you're obviously bitter. Like,
And now you want
bitter
a pat
about
on the
getting
back.
pushed out. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
now
right.
you want a pat on the back for being such a patriot.
Right. Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. Come on. All right.
This journalist, the young journalists are pretty tough now. You're Biden, you're out, and now you want a pat on the back. We just want you out of here, man. We got to win this race, man. Get out of our way. You're lucky we didn't do that earlier. Okay, let me see. This is interesting. This is so interesting.
Let's go ahead and we're going to turn now to recapping the DNC guys. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to roll through a bunch of things just to give everybody a taste of what it was like last night. Mac, let's go ahead and start with the state roll call. There was a lot of energy in the hall from everywhere. California passed, actually. That didn't actually pass, by the way. It's a tradition because the home state of the candidate is the one who passes up until the actual moment that they take the stage so they can put them over the edge. Mac, give us a little bit of a taste of what that DNC roll call was, because there was a hell of a lot of energy that was in the hall at that time. Let's roll it.
So Democrats and independents, it's time for us to do the right thing, and that is to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States of America. California, we proudly cast our 482 votes for the next president, Kamala Harris.
All right, so that was the little bit of the roll call. We'll go to the next one, I think, because that's actually quite interesting. This was Lil Jon doing the call for Georgia. We just had Parker in the studio, who is a Georgia delegate. We should have asked him about this.
I talked to him about it before.
Did you? What did he say?
He said it was like electric. He said they had a party the night before, and Raphael Warnock was like on a balcony.
What is the Lil
overlooking-
Jon Georgia connection? Is he from Georgia?
I think he's from Atlanta.
Okay, all right. Matt, can we cue up Lil Jon, please? And let's go ahead and take a listen. This was a big moment in the hall.
Georgia, how do you cast your votes?
Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to officially nominate Kamala Harris for president. 5, get loud, another round of shots. DNC, turn out for what?
Wow. Yo, this the DNC convention is kind of late, man. I have to say that this is very late.
Turn out for what?
And we can pull it from there for copyright.
Okay,
purposes.
that was
you,
absolutely incredible. And that, I mean, does highlight something Emily's been trying to say here. For people who are doubting, here's the truth. The energy is big. It's here. Emily, you were at the RNC. You were saying it's a little bit more somber there, obviously because Trump got shot in the head. But this is, look, there's a party atmosphere that we can't deny. And I'm actually glad that we're here on the ground to be able to see it, to feel it. I mean, we're going to talk about how awful the logistics have been. So even though all of these pre-credentialed delegates and all these other people are waiting in hours-long lines, a massive pain in the ass, there's all this problems, they don't mind. They're just sitting, they're standing in line, they're waiting, and when they get in, they're fired up and ready to go, one might say.
I think two things can be true.
Yeah.
This is not 2008.
Yeah.
But this is also very real.
Well, the
right?
bench can't be the most exciting Democratic campaign in modern history.
It is not. Ryan, I'm curious what you think about this because you've actually been to these conventions. I don't think the energy in the room is 2008-esque. I also, though, don't think it's fake, which the right is saying.
And Ryan was at 08, so it was a perfect.
And Axios had a poll of Hispanic voters that showed the enthusiasm gap that existed before Harris took over the top of the ticket had been closed with just Hispanic voters, like entirely closed between Trump and Harris in terms of Hispanic voter enthusiasm among Democrats versus Hispanic Republican voters. So obviously, even the polling is picking up on just subjectively, qualitatively what we've noticed. So two things can be true. What do you think about that? It's not 08, but it is lit.
2008 was indeed electric. It had, it had non-cringe celebrities who were like, everybody was fired up. Everybody's believing like we might actually like prove that we're not the racist country that we thought we were. We're going to, by electing Barack Obama as president. He gave his acceptance speech in the like Denver football stadium, like just 60, 70,000 people or
Guys, I know I was alive during 2008. I did not know it was that electrifying. For some reason, I'm not following the news that much, like as close as everybody else. For me, it seems like Kamala is more electrified because of the sudden move of Joe Biden leaving. So it's almost like you think that you're gonna die, you're gonna pass away, and then there's a live Jesus Christ resurrected from the dead. That's the way I see this Kamala presidency. It's a little bit different. Obama was big too because Bush was like very depressing, but it wasn't something sudden like this. I understand the first black president was a big issue, but I guess this is going to be a big competition between Obama and Kamala, the most exciting elections.
for more. Just blowing, there was no roof, just just crushing it. But what people forget is that 2008 also had a very divisive primary against Hillary Clinton, and all over Denver and throughout the convention were these groups of mostly women who were called Pumas.
Oh, I remember. Party Unity My Ass.
Party Unity My Ass.
Yeah.
They were marching through Denver constantly. And they were pissed off.
Right.
And so there is actual party unity now. Like you saw AOC and Bernie and like
true. That was big.
Like everybody is together basically with the party establishment.
Let's show a little bit of that. Hey, can we go ahead and put the next one up there, Mac? This is Kamala. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but to me it was very extraordinary, and I want to make sure whenever we do YouTube clips that people can see this. We can see some of this, Mac, which is that at the same time that the United Center was filled in Chicago. Kamala Harris is in Milwaukee, 15,000 people in the same stadium where they had the RNC, and then accepts the Democratic Party nomination there from the stage. We have that queued up. Okay, let's go ahead and play a little bit of it for the people.
Convention, well, they just completed their roll call. And they have nominated Coach Walz and me to be the next Vice President and President of the United States of America.
So there you go. You could see it. You could see her accept that nomination. Let's go to the next one, and we're going to give people some of the highlights of the other speeches. Immediately after that, we kind of moved into primetime. Do you have a quick comment?
I was just saying that is an absolute flex.
Yeah,
right. Where the
that was a
Republicans
big
had the
flex,
convention, swing state, blue wall state. She beams in this massive crowd, excited
100%.
crowd.
There's a comparison clip between the RNC and the DNC if we want.
Do we? Oh, yeah, that's right. Why don't we go ahead and put that up there on the screen, just to put some of the RNC energy versus the DNC energy. You can see, I mean, frankly, this is probably more reflective of who gets to be the average delegate to the RNC. You've just basically got a bunch of boomers and old people at the RNC versus, well, let's look, we had Parker here.
Not
right?
a lot of Parkers.
Yeah, there are not a lot of Parkers at the RNC, if we're being honest. They're definitely there as YouTubers and streamers.
Yeah, like
Edith
Laura
Ross
Loomer was
and,
there. Yeah,
all those folks, but they're not actually the delegates. So
Yes.
Go ahead and roll that for us, Mac. This is courtesy of Morning Joe. I guess I have to say that. All right.
Let's commence with the call of the roll of the states.
Delegates, are you ready? Let me hear you.
Iowa, 40 delegates.
Dude, you gotta do it.
A lot of delegates at the RNC, and you could probably go back and find clips of people wilding out at the RNC, but the best description I would say is that the RNC is more like a political event, feels more like a political event, whereas the DNC feels more like a Hollywood event.
Yeah,
it feels like it's a
absolutely.
more entertainment
Very
type
well said.
event, and like the RNC had a feeling of heaviness because Trump had just been shot in the head, but also it had this kind of confidence because at that point it was Biden versus the guy who had just survived an assassination attempt. So people just felt really, there was a weight, a gravity to it, and they felt really confident. And I think you see a lot of confidence with the Dems, which is why Kamala flexed and beamed in from Milwaukee, but it's also just like this total sugar rush.
Yeah.
You know, whether it lasts is the big question.
What was shocking to me about the roll call is that Democrats did something new.
Yeah.
Like that's an innovation on the form of the convention.
Yeah. Well,
and
they
it's like,
produced it.
wow, I didn't know you could do something
They
new.
produced it for television. They wanted, I mean, they got what they wanted, which is we're covering it. It's a media moment. It was actually produced in order to project energy and, dare I say, joy. That's a word that we heard a lot last night, and that was a key to basically all of the major speeches. Let's go now to Bernie Sanders. We have two separate clips that we can show. He was given a primetime speaking slot. He used it to really push some of his 2016 energy, but I will say, just going into it, it was remarkable to me. I mean, 2016, Bernie Sanders, this is a man who basically had the DNC steal the race away from him and rigged the primary process, who he's been at war with his entire life, then ascending to the main stage in primetime to endorse Kamala Harris. But he did it, I guess, in his own way. He gave a nod to some of the ceasefire talk. Max got it loaded. Let's take a listen.
We must end this horrific war in Gaza. Bring home the hostages and demand an immediate ceasefire.
All right, so there you go. Demanding an immediate ceasefire. He also had
Not permanent. Whatever. Nobody wants to hear my nitpicking. It's not permanent. It's just immediate. Like he won't. Like whatever.
What we will do is we'll let you get some of your energy out in the protest block because I know how frustrated you are with the uncommitted movement now so far. Let's get the next one up there. What I want to do is show everybody the contrast and truly the big tent that we've seen here at the DNC. Preceding Bernie Sanders is Kenneth Chenault. He's a $100 million former Amex chairman who's like, Kamala is so great for business. And it's like, in America is the best place to start a credit card company with legal usury. Then Bernie Sanders Bernie Sanders takes the stage to attack billionaires, which is immediately then followed by J.B. Pritzker, who starts bragging about being an actual billionaire in contrast to Trump. All right, so Matt, let's take the billionaire clip here from Bernie, and then quickly we'll hot switch it to J.B. Pritzker right afterwards.
And my friends, at the very top of that to-do list is the need to get big money out of our political process. Billionaires in both parties should not be able to buy elections, including primary elections.
Got it. Okay, let's pull out of that. All right, so billionaires should not be able to buy elections, including primary elections. What did I say there?
Whoops.
Oh, what was that?
Too bad we're live.
Yeah. It's a live nude sign. That's over.
Yeah,
that's my mind is going in different directions. Okay. So then immediately after that, what happens is that we have.
Oh my God, Saga, it's okay. It's okay. Those things happen because when you talk too much, you make those kind of mistakes. But sorry, Saga, I have to go back to this one. This one was too funny.
Out of our political process. Billionaires in both parties should not be able to buy elections, including primary elections.
Got it. Okay, let's pull out of that. All right, so billionaires should not be able to buy elections, including primary elections. What did I say there?
Whoops.
Oh, what was that?
Too bad we're live.
Yeah.
The perils of live.
It's the live nude sign that's over there.
Yeah,
that's my mind is going in different directions.
Right there.
Okay, so then immediately after that, what happens is that we have J.B. Pritzker, the governor of the state that we're in right now, Illinois, who is also would I call him an heir, a billionaire heir? Is that the fairest way to put it? Yeah. All right, so an heir to a billionaire fortune, hasn't even made his own billionaire fortune, and then bragging about being a billionaire in contrast to Donald Trump. So, Mac, let's roll it for the people.
Donald Trump thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire. Trump is rich in only one thing: stupidity.
There it is. So take it from an actual billionaire. And I gotta even give credit to producer Mac and to producer Griffin, because we were all watching the speech together, and he's like, I literally cannot believe that just happened right after Bernie Sanders spoke on the stage, and attacking a billionaire, then having a billionaire governor who, okay, nobody becomes a billionaire governor just out of the goodness of their own heart and talent. Especially, I frankly, I don't get Pritzker energy. I don't think he's good.
No,
I don't think he's really all that talented. He's hokey as hell to me, Ryan.
I generally like JB. He's been an extremely progressive governor in Illinois. That was the worst, most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There is a sect of Democratic activists who have been making this argument against Trump that he's not a real billionaire, that these are the real billionaires for years now. And that, I think that energy was channeled through Pritzker there, and they loved seeing it. I think it's utterly tone deaf, absurd. And to you make a great point. Just like Trump, he inherited his money.
You didn't even do anything.
It's like a hotel fortune.
Right.
Like, what are you doing?
He's using the DNC stage to squash billionaire beefs, and to engage in billionaire beefing, which is truly
that's as bad as politics get, folks.
Yeah. Nobody wants it. Nobody wants it except for the wine moms.
Yeah, no, but that's the problem. Let's be honest. Right. There is a constituency to this.
That played.
There is a $350,000 a year income voter in Peachtree, Georgia.
Yep, it's the DeKalb County.
Parker was just talking about, who is like, he's right. He's not even a real billionaire, just like our man JB.
Take it from a real billionaire.
Take it from a real billionaire. Yeah. But that led to, frankly, some nice moments. I was saying here, people know I'm a cynical guy.
You and Crystal.
But I'm a sucker for the reluctant spouse, the spouse who does not even want to be on the stage, but who, they're like, okay, I'm going to do it for her, for him. Like Ann Romney. Remember that? It was very similar. Like people who, they don't really want to be in the spotlight, but they just
want their dressage horse.
That's right. Yeah. their spouses have chosen to be in this lane, and Doug Emhoff, he certainly stole a lot of hearts in the audience. People were crying, and he wanted to humanize Kamala Harris yesterday. So he told a story of their first date. Why don't we go ahead, Mac, if we can, and cue this up? The story of the voicemail and of his, which he says is played every anniversary, coincidentally, which is on Thursday. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
For generations, people have debated when to call the person you're being set up with. And never in history has anyone suggested 8:30 a.m. And yet, that's when I dialed. I got Kamala's voicemail, and I just started rambling. Hey, it's Doug. I'm on my way to an early meeting. Again, it's Doug. I remember I was trying to grab the words out of the air and just put them back in my mouth. And for what seemed like far too many minutes, I hung up. By the way, Kamala saved that voicemail. And she makes me listen to it on every anniversary.
All right, so he's not exactly the best speaker in the world, but Griffin compared it to dads at weddings. You're rooting for him. You just have to root for him, and it is sweet. He also, again, in terms of trying to humanize her, which frankly has been one of the bigger political vulnerabilities that she's had, tries to speak about her role in his own family life. So let's go ahead and cue up the next part there, Mac, and we will take a listen.
Kamala is a joyful warrior. It's doing for her country what she has always done for the people that she loves. Her passion will benefit all of us when she's our president. And here's the thing about joyful warriors. They're still warriors. And Kamala is as tough as it comes. Just ask the criminals, the global gangsters, and the witnesses before the Senate Judiciary Committee. She never runs from a fight. And she knows the best way to deal with a coward is to take him head on. Because we all know cowards are weak, and Kamala Harris can smell weakness. She doesn't tolerate any BS. You've all seen that look, and you know that look I'm talking about. That look is not just a meme. It reflects her true belief in honest and direct leadership.
So there you go. Look, this is the job of the spouse at the convention.
Just ask those kids.
Yeah, well.
And again, nobody cares about me, what I have to say about this at this point, because it's all joy and it's et cetera. Yeah. But you can also ask the people wrongfully convicted that can basically demonstrate that they were innocent and yet are still behind bars.
Justice impacted people there?
No, I'm talking. Well, yes, justice impacted innocent people who Kamala Harris kept in prison with paperwork arguments.
But that's very inconvenient to all.
Weed, truancy.
Yes.
It's also inconvenient from the Trump side. They don't know quite how to handle it because she's soft on crime or she's too tough on crime.
Right.
But there are plenty of innocent people that are obviously innocent that Harris worked to keep behind bars. Not saying that she thinks they're guilty, but you didn't file your lousy attorney filing soon enough, or you didn't do you missed this deadline, so therefore you should rot in prison. So yeah, she joyfully fights those people too.
Sagar is right though. Like Emhoff understood the assignment.
Yeah, that was.
Wow, I did not understand this dynamic. I heard about this. I heard Kamala doesn't have too much of a good prosecution background in California, but I don't know, man. That can come back and haunt her. But the way I look at politics, I don't know if you guys agree with this. There's no pure politician or good politician that has like a clean record. The only guy that I think that has a clean record when it comes to honesty and decency is Bernie Sanders. To me, he's the only guy. Everybody has a little bit of like nefarious stuff going on. It's tough, man. When you're trying to dive into those political waters and you're trying to look for the best politician, it's almost impossible to find a very good politician that has no questionable background.
It doesn't like
that's the job.
It might work on Saga and Crystal, which it seemed to. It doesn't really do it for me, but he did a good job of doing what he had.
That's because you and I are online. Okay, I can separate both my analyst hat and then being the guy who also knows that this guy knocked up his nanny, which is gross, right? And immediately following him, very
corporate
messy
lawyer.
divorce, corporate lawyer, and all that. But look, people don't want to hear that. And also, look, spouse, it's fair game-ish, like etc. It does tell us a little bit about kind of like who these people are underneath. But I've also been around enough politicians. Like these are messy ass people.
Listen,
they're screwed up. They're egomaniacs.
And
they're not gonna have normal. They're not gonna have normal lives.
No.
That's so Saigon kind of agree with me. Politicians are freaking egomaniacs, like losers and people that do not have like strong morals. And a lot of them, and most of them are narcissists. Why in the world would you want to date Kamala Harris? What's his name? This guy, like the Kamala Harris' husband. He's not a like. I mean, this is a guy that a lot of women want, right? He's a handsome guy, like. But I think like the reason why he went for Kamala is because of the power, the status. Kamala is also beautiful, but I'm saying he could have get other girls. This guy, he's a corporate lawyer. He's pretty up there in the world. So he went for Kamala because Kamala is a high status woman. There are guys like that, and a lot of people don't believe that. They think like all the guys are looking for nice body only. There's some guys that look for status also, and you tend to see those guys in a high position. There's a lot of guys like that.
And Kamala Harris, by the way, has one of the highest rates of or one of the lowest rates of staff retention. When she was in the Senate, she said the same thing happened when she was vice president. So when Doug Emhoff is talking about how tough Kamala Harris is, that she's not just joyful, she's also very much the warrior. There is another side to Kamala Harris that has, as she's been establishing herself the last few weeks, it has been incredibly successful from a PR standpoint. Heavy assist from the media, but it's working so far.
In fact, usually whenever they're like a sweetheart publicly, it means they are mean as hell behind the scenes. I've read some of the
Klobuchar?
I have read, not just Klobuchar. I've read some incredible stories about like Bill Clinton and his legendary anger.
I've heard those.
And like all these guys.
Or the stories about Harris is
Harris, all these other people. The way it's been explained to me is that they have to project niceness to the entire outside world, and the only outlet that they have is on their staff. And so the staff is just they sit there and they have to take a beating.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show. Help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.
And I want to come down to the floor because Senator Bernie Sanders is about to speak. Remember 2016, the Bernie Bros in the convention hall. Again, the Democrats have learned something there, too. This is a unified Democratic Party. There aren't holdouts this time around.
And that makes all the difference. No question about it, David. Parties that are divided basically lose elections. This party has come together. They look at Bernie Sanders and...
So it seems like Kamala has succeeded as far as uniting the left, which is pretty good. Like you know what I'm saying, because it's like the left, man. Those guys are like they are very the left when it comes to the Democratic Party. These people are very hardcore. They do not accept anyone, like and they don't have any nuance in their viewpoint. Like when they have a point, they want you to follow it 100%. Like you cannot bend them, you cannot bend over with those guys. Like you know what I'm saying? It's like it's the way it is, man. It's like it's their way or the highway. Like okay, something happened here. Let me see. Hold on a second. So let me end this stream. Okay. Oh, you still saying that I'm okay? Okay, so I'm saying. Oh no, it's alive. The stream is still alive. Okay, it's still alive. That's all you know, it's alive. Okay. So I'm let me see, let me just do this. Stop streaming. So when it comes to streaming, you cannot pause the stream. Cannot pause it. Wow. Okay, you cannot. Okay, so I'm learning this, guys. Okay, so so let's go back to Bernie.
And they
now.
remember that, and they remember how that party came apart, and how they want to make sure that his ideas, some of them of which Kamala Harris is adopting, become part of them going forward together.
Thank you, Terry. Let's listen, Senator Sanders.
Tonight, because we're laying the groundwork for Kamala Harris to become our next president. And let me tell you why that is so important. I want you all to remember where we were 3.5 years ago. We were in the midst of the worst public health crisis in 100 years and the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. 3,000 Americans were dying every day, and our hospitals were overwhelmed with COVID patients. All across the country, businesses were shutting down. Unemployment was soaring. Workers were losing their health insurance. Schools were closing. State and city budgets were running out of money. People were being evicted from their homes. Children in America were going hungry. That was the reality the Biden-Harris administration faced as they entered the Oval Office. A nation suffering, a nation frightened, and people looking to their government for support. And within 2 months of taking office, our government did respond. We passed the American Rescue Plan, which provided $1,400 for every man, woman, and child in the working class. We extended and expanded benefits for the unemployed. We provided emergency assistance for small businesses to stay open. We guaranteed health care coverage to tens of millions of Americans through one of the largest expansions of Medicaid in history. We provided rent relief and mortgage assistance, which prevented tenants and homeowners from being evicted. We established emergency food programs for hungry children and the elderly, and protected the pensions of millions of union workers and retirees from being slashed by up to 65%. Oh, and by the way, we cut childhood poverty by over 40% through an expanded child tax credit. Thank you, President Biden. Thank you, Vice President Harris. Thank you, Democratic Congress. Now, I say all of this not to relive that difficult moment, but to make one simple point. When the political will is there, government can effectively deliver for the people of our country. And now we need to summon that will again, because too many of our fellow Americans are struggling every day to just get by, to put food on the table, to pay the rent and to get the health care they need. Brothers and sisters, bottom line, we need an economy that works for all of us, not just the billionaire class. My fellow Americans, when 60% of our people live paycheck to paycheck.
Okay, so you guys got the view. Bernie Sanders talking here about the thing. It's pretty good, but I like to hear the viewpoint of those guys, man. The breaking points people. Those are the best people in the world. They know how to really like talk about it. Okay, so that was interesting.
Let's go ahead and we're going to turn now to recapping the DNC guys. So the way that we're going to do this is we're going to roll through a bunch of things just to give everybody a taste of what it was like last night. Mac, let's go ahead and start with the state roll call. There was a lot of energy in the hall from everywhere. California passed, actually. That didn't actually pass, by the way. It's a tradition because the home state of the candidate is the one who passes up until the actual moment that they take the stage so they can put them over the edge. Mac, give us a little bit of a taste of what that DNC roll call was, because there was a hell of a lot of energy that was in the hall at that time. Let's roll it.
So Democrats and independents, it's time for us to do the right thing, and that is to elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States of America. California, we proudly cast our 482 votes for the next president, Kamala Harris.
All right, so that was the little bit of the roll call. We'll go to the next one, I think, because that's actually quite interesting. This was Lil Jon doing the call for Georgia. We just had Parker in the studio, who is a Georgia delegate. We should have asked him about this.
I talked to him about it before.
Did you? What did he say?
He said it was like electric. He said they had a party the night before, and Raphael Warnock was like on a balcony.
What is the Lil Jon Georgia connection? Is he from Georgia?
I think he's from Atlanta.
Okay, all right. Matt, can we cue up Lil Jon, please? And let's go ahead and take a listen. This was a big moment in the hall.
Georgia, how do you cast your votes?
Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, we are here tonight to officially nominate Kamala Harris for president. Another round of shots. DNC, turn out for what? Turn out for what?
And we can pull away from there for copyright.
Okay, that was absolutely incredible. And that, does highlight something Emily's been trying to say here. For people who are doubting, here's the truth. The energy is big. It's here. Emily, you were at the RNC. You were saying it's a little bit more somber there, obviously because Trump got shot in the head. But this is, look, there's a party atmosphere that we can't deny. And I'm actually glad that we're here on the ground to be able to see it, to feel it. We're going to talk about how awful the logistics have been. So even though, that's my mind is going in different.
So guys, I want to go. I wanted to fast forward and recap on this. The fact that Bernie was talking about the billionaires and how the breaking point was like, how the guy that came after started to talk like, "Hey, I'm the real billionaire. You got Trump is not." And that was very cringe.
Okay, so then immediately after that, what happens is that we have J.B. Pritzker, the governor of the state that we're in right now, Illinois, who is also would I call him an heir, a billionaire heir? Is that the fairest way to put it? All right, so an heir to a billionaire fortune, hasn't even made his own billionaire fortune, and then bragging about being a billionaire in contrast to Donald Trump. So, Mac, let's roll it for the people.
Donald Trump thinks that we should trust him on the economy because he claims to be very rich. But take it from an actual billionaire. Trump is rich in only one thing: stupidity.
There it is. So take it from an actual billionaire. And I gotta even give credit to producer Mac and to producer Griffin, because we were all watching the speech together. And he's like, I literally cannot believe that just happened right after Bernie Sanders spoke on the stage, and attacking a billionaire, then having a billionaire governor who, okay, nobody becomes a billionaire governor just out of the goodness of their own heart and talent. Especially, I frankly, I don't get Pritzker energy. I don't think he's good.
No,
I don't think he's really all that talented. He's hokey as hell to me, Ryan.
I generally like JB. He's been an extremely progressive governor in Illinois. That was the worst, most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
There is a sect of Democratic activists who have been making this argument against Trump that he's not a real billionaire, that these are the real billionaires for years now. And that, I think that energy was channeled through Pritzker there, and they loved seeing it. I think it's utterly tone deaf, absurd. And you make a great point. Just like Trump, he inherited his money.
You didn't.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of weird that he brought that up during the Democratic National Convention. Most Americans are not billionaires, and when you're running for politics, you're not wanting to take care of the billionaires. You know, it's not like you're meant. So it was kind of cringe when he did that, but you know, we understand. Let me see. Breaking point. Let me see. Oprah. Let me see. Did he say something? Let me see. Okay, let me see.
Let's go ahead and we're going to turn now to recapping.
Let's go to Oprah.
Let's watch Oprah Winfrey.
So we know one thing for sure now. Remember, Oprah was acting like she's not too much. She was neutral, not for Trump, not against Trump, and now she's invited, and they want her to do the same thing that she did for Obama. During when Obama was being elected for president in 2008, Oprah was one of the key figures, celebrity figures that they used to be able to push Obama over the line. So.
Who says you can't go home again? After watching the Obamas last night, that was some epic fire, wasn't it? Some epic fire. We're now so fired up, we can't wait to leave here and do something. And what we're going to do is elect Kamala Harris as the next president of the United States. I am so honored to have been asked to speak on tonight's theme about what matters most to me, to you, and all of us Americans: freedom. There are people.
The Oprah speech was okay. Let's go to it wasn't the most interesting. I think it's the Obama was interesting. Like Obama was very interesting. Let me see.
Let's go ahead and move to the Obama section. So obviously this was critical. This was the big flagship moment. We had two major speeches from Michelle Obama and Barack Obama, and I think that there were two primary instructions to the Obamas. For Michelle, first and most noteworthy to me, she didn't mention Joe Biden's name one time. It was all about Kamala Harris, but more importantly, there were a lot of subtle digs at Biden. She talked about this sickness inside of her that existed while Joe Biden was a candidate, and then how joyful she felt. There was also the hope is making a comeback. So there was a lot of riding the nostalgia wave and trying to get the Democratic base in primed for two things. Number one, literally fired up and ready to go, which Obama gave us that signature line. But two is don't lose hope. Every single day matters. You need to get out there. You need to door knock. This is going to be a tight race. Don't get complacent. So that was like the primary message. Michelle also, one of the instructions clearly that was given to her was we need to nip a lot of this Democratic infighting in the bud, and everybody needs to get with the program and get with the program right now. So let's go ahead, Mac, and let's cue up Michelle Obama. Hope is making a comeback. That was probably the biggest, one of the bigger lines that she had that night. We'll play some of the others, but let's hear this first one.
Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? Yeah. You know, we're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. You know what I'm talking about. It's the contagious power of hope. The anticipation, the energy, the exhilaration of once again being on the cusp of a brighter day. The chance to vanquish the demons of fear, division, and hate that have consumed us and continue pursuing the unfinished promise of this great nation, the dream that our parents and grandparents fought and died and sacrificed for. America, hope is making a comeback.
All right, let's pull out of that, Mac. So obviously that was a big one. Yeah, go ahead and quick comment before.
One point on that. Yeah. A lot of people in the Democratic coalition felt hope in 2015, again in 2019, when Bernie Sanders was running for president on a pledge to remake the country in a more hopeful and just direction, running for something. If you notice there, what was the hope there?
No Trump.
That she would vanquish the evil spirits.
Yes.
The demon,
and that's how you unite the Democratic Party. Well, not in something forward-looking of what we're going to do, but in who we're going to beat.
That's right.
Keep out of office.
This was the key thing. Actually, to me, the most important lines from the Obamas, both of their speeches, was tone policing the Democratic coalition. So, Mac, let's cue up the next one. This is Michelle Obama on the dissenters. And here we have her basically saying, mostly to the Gaza protesters, like, hey, guys, let's nip this in the bud.
Come on.
We're all coming together. It's unity time. If you don't get with the program, then you're basically helping Donald Trump. Go ahead, Mac. Let's take a listen. Let's get specifically to this quote about the worst enemies and all of that. So go ahead.
As we embrace this renewed sense of hope, let us not forget the despair we have felt. Let us not forget what we are up against. Yes, Kamala and Tim are doing great now. We're loving it. They're packing arenas across the country. Folks are energized. We are feeling good. But remember, there are still so many people who are desperate for a different outcome, who are ready to question and criticize every move Kamala makes, who are eager to spread those lies, who don't want to vote for a woman, who will continue to prioritize building their wealth over ensuring that everyone has enough. So no matter how good we feel tonight or tomorrow or the next day, this is going to be an uphill battle. So folks, we cannot be our own worst enemies. No. See, because the minute something goes wrong, the minute a lie takes hold, folks, we cannot start wringing our hands. We cannot get a Goldilocks complex about whether everything is just right. And we cannot indulge our anxieties about whether this country will elect someone like Kamala instead of doing everything we can to get someone like Kamala elected.
So that was the key moment right Ryan, the Goldilocks complex. We can't be, bogged down in some of this protest nonsense. Not everything can be just right. We cannot indulge our anxieties. I thought that was really, really interesting from Michelle, because we combine effectively the family, her and Nancy Pelosi, the most responsible for getting Biden out of the race. Clearly, she has massive resentment against Joe Biden. She didn't even mention his name one time, didn't thank him, nothing. Implied that he made her physically ill to her stomach while he was in office, and then at the same time doing the tone policing that Obama picks up on in his speech. Go ahead, Ryan. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I also thought it was aimed a little bit at people who keep out of office.
This was the key thing.
I want to hear
most important lines from the Obama.
I don't know about you. I look like I miss everything.
Both of their speeches was tone policing the Democratic coalition. So, Mac, let's cue up the next one. This is Michelle Obama on the dissenters. And here we have her basically saying, mostly to the Gaza protesters, like, hey, guys, let's nip this in the bud. We're all coming together. It's unity time. If you don't get with the program, then you're basically helping Donald Trump. Go ahead, Mac. Let's take a listen. Let's get specifically to this quote about the worst enemies and all that. So go ahead.
As we embrace this renewed sense of hope, let us not forget the despair we have felt. Let us not forget what we are up against. Yes, Kamala and Tim are doing great now. We're loving it. They're packing arenas across the country. Folks are energized. We are feeling good. But remember, there are still so many people who are desperate for a different outcome, who are ready to question and criticize every move Kamala makes, who are eager to spread those lies, who don't want to vote for a woman, who will continue to prioritize building their wealth over ensuring that everyone has enough. So no matter how good we feel tonight or tomorrow or the next day, this is going to be an uphill battle. So folks, we cannot be our own worst enemies. No. See, because the minute something goes wrong, the minute a lie takes hold, folks, we cannot start wringing our hands. We cannot get a Goldilocks complex about whether everything is just right. And we cannot indulge our anxieties about whether this country will elect someone like Kamala instead of doing everything we can to get someone like Kamala elected.
So that was the key moment, right, Ryan, the Goldilocks complex. We can't be, bogged down in some of this protest nonsense. Not everything can be just right. We cannot indulge our anxieties. I thought that was really, really interesting for Michelle, because we combine, effectively, the family, her and Nancy Pelosi, the most responsible for getting Biden out of the race. Clearly, she has massive resentment against Joe Biden. She didn't even mention his name one time, didn't thank him, nothing. Implied that he made her physically ill to her stomach while he was in office, and then at the same time doing the tone policing that Obama picks up on.
I don't understand why there's so much beef against Biden. I think Biden is like anybody else, but he's a little bit of a narcissist. Definitely Biden is a narcissist, because you cannot run, you cannot talk, you cannot walk, that you have mental health, all those things, that the donors are not giving you money, that Hollywood is against you. You see all that, but you still say that you want to stay in the race. The only thing that got you out of the race was the money, from what I heard. It's not really about you care about the Americans. It was about the money.
In his speech. Go ahead, Ryan. What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I also thought it was aimed a little bit at people who spent the first, several weeks saying like, hey, by the way, what are you going to run on? Like, what are your policies? Right.
My name's not Trump. That's
what are you going to do if you win? And then when the policies do come out, there's some nitpicking at them here and there. She's saying like, don't do that. Like, don't worry about it. We're running against Trump. He's bad. It's not going to be a perfect campaign. And that I understand that argument. Sure. And most Democrats are like, yeah, actually, that's right.
Did you hear the pop when she said that? Because clearly, as you and I know, and we'll get to, the protesters and all that, they're not all that welcome there at the DNC.
Right.
I'm seeing anytime I see anyone wearing a keffiyeh or anything, there's a lot of side eye. And I noticed also when we were interviewing some of the uncommitted delegates and others, that there was people were beefing, is the way I would put it, to them. Their presence is not welcome, the way I would put it.
What's interesting is that the policy they support is very welcome. Like whenever anybody,
but it's the
Warnock,
display.
But when Warnock or Sanders or AOC mentions Gaza, like the crowd is like with them. And if you poll Democrats, they want a permanent ceasefire. Like they want this war, they want this attack on Gaza to end now. But you're right that the individuals who are pushing and making things uncomfortable for them internally, they'd be like, can you tone it down a little bit?
Yeah, you're exactly right.
So
Okay, let's go. I think we have
some
a
other
final Michelle Obama clip. This was probably her biggest moment of the night, making fun of Trump for saying black jobs during his National Association of Black Journalists appearance recently. Mac, why don't we go ahead and cue up the next one? Here's Michelle with the biggest line of the night.
We know what comes next. We know folks are going to do everything they can to distort her truth. My husband and I sadly know a little something about this. For years, Donald Trump did everything in his power to try to make people fear us. See, his limited, narrow view of the world made him feel threatened by the existence of two hardworking, highly educated, successful people who happen to be black. Who's going to tell him that the job he's currently seeking might just be one of those black jobs?
Boom. Biggest line of the night. So I think that was pretty significant. This was Michelle.
I kind of like that. Wow. You seeking to be president? Well, how about this is a black job? I love that. I love that from Michelle. Big line.
From all accounts, inside the hall was much actually better received than Obama. Part of the reason that we led with her. There's still so much energy around her, obviously, as a potential candidate. She clearly has zero interest. But any last thoughts on Michelle Obama?
The number of people throughout American history who could waltz into the White House if they wanted, but decide not to do it, you can probably count on one hand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she could have finished her speech last night by saying, actually, you know what?
Yeah, it's me.
I think I want the nomination. The place would have just absolutely erupted. They would have marched to Milwaukee and told Kamala Harris, like, I'm sorry.
Right.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kamala. Thank you, Kamala.
Yeah, thank you, Kamala.
Thank you, Kamala.
Thank you, Kamala.
But it's going to be Michelle.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Yeah, she could have seized it like in the moment. They would have figured out a procedural way to make it.
You're right.
To
You're
make it happen.
right. Okay.
Yet she doesn't want it. It's truly like not in this political world that resistance to that poll.
Let's go ahead and move on to President Obama. He took the stage. It was a pretty long speech, actually. And he tried again to resurrect some of the hits. So here we have Yes, She Can, that he tried to get going as a chant inside of the hall. Let's take a listen.
College shouldn't be the only ticket to the middle class. We need to follow the lead of governors like Tim Walz, who said, if you've got the skills and the drive, you shouldn't need a degree to work for state government. And in this new economy, we need a president who actually cares about the millions of people all across this country who wake up every single day to do the essential, often thankless work, to care for our sick, to clean our streets, to deliver our packages. We need a president who will stand up for their right to bargain for better wages and working conditions. And Kamala will be that president. Yes, she can. Yes, she can.
All right, fired up and ready to go. He gave us all of the absolute classics. Yes, she can. There was also a big moment here on crowd sizes. I'll let everybody decide what Obama was talking about in terms of size for yourself. Probably not family friendly for the stream, but let's go ahead and cue this up. Mac, let's get the shot of President Obama talking about Trump's obsession with crowd sizes.
There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes.
That was absolutely his biggest line of the night. That was his baseline.
He's so good at this too, by the way.
When he does the roasts, he's good at the roasts.
He's great with crowd work.
I mean, he's good with the crowd. Look, he's one of the most generational, probably the best generational politician in modern American history.
He was right though that anybody following Michelle is stupid. He was flat.
Yeah, I didn't think he was good. He
Michelle.
actually. Oh, I don't think we have that line about the leaf blower. Yeah, I don't think.
Maybe we can find it on Twitter.
We could probably find it.
But
Matt,
yes,
can you go ahead and search for that leaf blower thing while I'm talking? But yeah,
this is an old rich man.
Yeah.
Being out of touch.
Yeah, you're right.
He looked and.
He's like, when you're, it's literally like for people who've ever watched 30 Rock, Tracy Morgan talks about he's like, I've lost touch with my roots. And he'll do a set, be like, when you're in St. Bart's and people are eating their lobster. It's
so good.
It's like literally Obama, like in Obama's in his multi-million-dollar mansion in Martha's Vineyard. And he's like, when your chef dies, whenever he goes swimming on your property when you're gone and you just can't get anybody to serve you some fresh sushi the next day.
And you lose your paddleboard.
Right, it's like, it's just one of those
your paddleboard bag.
It's really difficult out here, folks. So we do have the leaf blower line.
He looked.
Cue it up and let Ryan talk right now. Go ahead.
Tell me if you agree, Chad. But I think he looks angry at himself after.
Yeah, it was bad.
After it bombs, he's like, God, I shouldn't have said this.
Let's hear it, dude.
The other day I heard someone compare Trump to the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day. Now, from a neighbor, that's exhausting. From a president, it's just dangerous.
All right, let's pull out of that. I thought it was awful. It was very flat.
And in the seconds after that,
land at all.
He's like, oh, that didn't land.
Right. Yeah, you can tell.
He knows.
Anyway,
and he's so mad at whatever billionaire made that point to him right now.
Yeah, you're
he's never texting that guy back.
He's like, hey, Richard Branson, when we're on the private island, just shut up next time.
Yes.
Okay. That was his first trip after president.
He's like, oh, that didn't land.
Right. Yeah, you can tell.
He knows.
Just can't get anybody to serve you some fresh sushi the next day.
And you lose your paddleboard.
Right, it's like, it's just one of those
your paddleboard bag.
It's really difficult out here, folks. So we do have the leaf blower line.
He looked.
Cue it up and let Ryan talk right now. Go ahead.
Tell me if you agree, Chad. But I think he looks angry at himself after.
Yeah, it was bad.
After it bombs, he's like, God, I shouldn't have said
let's
this.
hear it, dude.
The other day I heard someone compare Trump to the neighbor who keeps running his leaf blower outside your window every minute of every day. Now, from a neighbor, that's exhausting. From a president, it's just dangerous.
All right, let's pull out of that. I thought it was awful. It was very flat.
And in the seconds after that,
land at all.
He's like, oh, that didn't land.
Right. Yeah, you can tell.
He knows.
Anyway,
and he's so mad at whatever billionaire made that point to him right now.
Yeah, you're
he's never texting that guy back.
He's like, hey, Richard Branson, when we're on the private island, just shut up next time.
Yes.
Okay. That was his first trip after president, if anybody is wondering. Okay, let's go ahead. Finally, the last clip of Obama. This again pairs very well with Michelle. The most important part. Here is Obama trying to tone police Democrats. Stop being so preachy. We need to win people over. No more language nonsense. Lots of anti-cancel culture stuff here. So let's hear it from Obama. This was honestly, this was one of the biggest sections of his speech, and he saved it to the end. And he was speaking very directly at the audience here. So let's take a listen to Professor Obama.
Isn't just a bunch of abstract principles and dusty laws in some book somewhere. It's the values we live by. It's the way we treat each other, including those who don't look like us, or pray like us, or see the world exactly like we do. That sense of mutual respect has to be part of our message. Our politics have become so polarized these days that all of us across the political spectrum seem so quick to assume the worst in others, unless they agree with us on every single issue. We start thinking that the only way to win is to scold and shame and out-yell the other side. And after a while, regular folks just tune out. or they don't bother to vote. Now, that approach may work for the politicians who just want attention and thrive on division, but it won't work for us. To make progress on the things we care about, the things that really affect people's lives, we need to remember that we've all got our blind spots and contradictions and prejudices, and that if we want to win over those who aren't yet ready to support our candidates, we need to listen to their concerns and maybe learn something in the process. After all, if a parent or grandparent occasionally says something that makes us cringe, we don't automatically assume they're bad people. We recognize that the world is moving fast, that they need time and maybe a little encouragement to catch up.
All right. I mean, tone policing Obama. I mean, I don't disagree with a word that he said.
There we go.
I mean, this is something that people always forget about Obama. This is the guy who lied about not supporting gay marriage in 2008, right? This is the guy who's like, what are you talking about? I love to shoot guns. I'm not a rich liberal from Chicago. It's like, who you know, and the point behind that is actually sometimes trying to play up and be, you know, trying to relate to people who you're not like is not a bad thing. And he's about persuading people to vote for you. And no matter what, he was never good at getting other people elected. Lost state houses and all that. He was great at getting himself elected.
Yeah.
I mean, 2012 was a winnable race for Republicans. And I think in retrospect, Obama very easily could have been beaten. But he played a masterful campaign. Brutal against Romney, despite the bad economy. And up until the day he left office, maintained some 55, something 60% approval rating. That's high. And people should listen and learn from that. Part of the reason that Obama got the primetime speech last night, how Bill Clinton is getting a primetime speech right before Tim Walz. Not an accident in either of those cases.
No, absolutely not. And the yes, she can chance, I don't even want to gloss over that. I feel like that's actually a really, really big deal because you're transferring, right? It's sort of like how Hillary Clinton transferred herself as this building block. She transferred 2016 and 2008 to some extent to this building block to the first female presidency. And what you have with Obama is this transferring of inspirational energy that a lot of Democratic voters still remember then to Kamala Harris. And I think Obama's at his worst when he's lecturing. This is least likable when it's like he's talking down to the public. That's not his strength. I think that's when he veers into the unlikable Obama. But when he's likable, he reminds people why they showed up in the streets of Chicago for him I mean, does anyone remember how big that crowd was election night?
Oh my God.
It was unreal.
Yeah,
and that's a legendary moment in American politics.
And so if you can channel that to the Harris campaign, just to give her a little bit of that magic, as Michelle Obama mentioned, if you can rub off on her some of that, it did not work for Hillary Clinton. We talked about this recently.
My final thought, just on the DNC, everything that happened, yes, there were contradictions, J.B. Pritzker, Bernie Sanders, but in prime time, the Obamas, they really brought it home. Obama, by the way, did take time to actually thank Joe Biden. So, at least somebody in the family was like, hey, thank you very much, Joe Biden, for everything that you're doing. Well, in terms of how it went for them, I thought that it was effective in trying to transfer as much of their energy as they can. Let's not forget they weren't able to put Hillary across the line. It's not like they still are able to do that, but they did their best that they could to kind of fire up the energy.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button.